I was in ISKCON and living in Srila Prabhupada's rooms at Radha Damodar Temple. When I first came to India, I was told, do not associate with Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj. And at that time, I had no reason or no understanding as to why. But there was some politics against Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj at that time. Most likely because of lack of spiritual education. Spiritual education is what brings us from the platform of the lowest stages of Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav. If there's no spiritual education, how can one rise in the platform of bhakti? How can one develop a relationship or develop his appreciation of who the Guru is and serve him properly? We have to be educated at this. So at this particular time, this was about 1991, I came to India. I was living in the Radha Damodar complex in Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir. So at that time, I had met many people from all over the world. And they were asking me different questions about Prabhupada Samadhi, this, that, and the next thing. So I wasn't so educated and I really didn't know how to answer all these questions. But through living there, many people came there and I would talk with them, discussing different subjects of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Narayana Maharaj. Two of the most important factors in my coming into the spiritual line of Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj is Gaur Govinda Maharaj. At that time I wrote him 2 letters asking him about Raganuga Bhakti, whether Prabhupada would be pleased with it or not, or what would please Srila Prabhupada. What did he want of me? Why was I here in the Radha Damodar complex? So he wrote back 2 letters stating that you should hear from a Raganuga Vaishnava about Raganuga Bhakti. And he said, if there's one available, you should go and hear from him, and that would please Srila Prabhupada very much. And he also said, first you should become pure and then go and preach. So this had a great impression on me at that time. Directly after that, I met Srila Tirthapad Prabhu. He was more than significant in my life in coming to Srila Narayana Maharaj, because at that time I hadn't had enough inquiry or insight into the Shastra to understand the inner meanings of the Shastra and what the purpose of Mahaprabhu's mission was. We were always taught in ISKCON, just chant Hare Krishna, do book distribution like this. But not so much internal things were revealed. Although the books were there, Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bindu, all these things, but the devotees in ISKCON, they weren't really able to grasp the concepts in these things. Why? First of all, they were because of Shraddha or faith or samskars. Gurudev would many times talk about samskars. People have strong faith, weak faith. If they have strong faith, they can go into bhakti very easily and grasp the conceptions, these higher conceptions coming from Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti. So he particularly gave me insight into the Shastra because he was with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj is one of the great pandits in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line. So through his insight into Shastra, he showed me exactly why it was important and it was bona fide to go outside of ISKCON and to take shelter of someone who was representing the Guru Parampara and the teachings of Mahaprabhu, especially Anarpita Charamchara. Mahaprabhu came to give spontaneous devotional service. And we weren't taught that in ISKCON. We were taught more rules and regulations. Why? Because we were from the West, for one thing, and we were not familiar with even the principles of regulation. And Srila Prabhupada just totally formulated and laid the base Siddhantically, philosophically, everything. Practical example, practical application, practical behavior for any devotee. But mostly he was cutting and supporting our nishta and philosophical foundation for going further in bhakti. The first time I met Srila Narayana Maharaj, believe it or not, was close to his birthday. I went to Mathura, Tirthapad and Shamala Dasi. They brought me to Mathura, where we went with Srila Narayana Maharaj to Srinivasa's house, which is near the Holy Gate. Srila Gurudev sat on a couch, gave a lecture, and after his lecture, we went downstairs for Artik. After the Artik was over, we started to do Tulsi Puja. So this was all very, very new to me. Srila Narayana Maharaj, when I first saw him, I was totally overwhelmed by his physical and practical nature. He was such a very natural person, you know. So we started to do Tulsi Puja. And believe it or not, he ran after me. And he started yelling at me, shaking his hand at me and yelling at me very, very intensely. And I was like so scared. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know why. I was just doing, as we do in ISKCON, we walk, you know, around Tulsi Devi and we say the prayer. And he ran after me, and I was like, I was totally overwhelmed. I didn't know what to say. To this day, I've asked many people, and I'm still really not sure why he ran after me. But I think it was because he was trying to attract. Gurudev attracts people by first letting them know that I am Guru, because we were outside ISKCON. He knew ISKCON people weren't inclined to accept anyone in the Gaudiya Math, or outside the Gaudiya ISKCON society in the Gaudiya Math. So he was very awesome at that time. That was the first time I met him. Second time I met him, I was still living in the Radha Damodar complex, and I brought him in Rup Sanatan. One day he was there giving darshan outside on the roof. So I went to him in front of him and I gave him a garland, and I put the garland on him and I brought him a box of sweets. And he looked at me and he said, and yelled at me, he said, "Open the box. Why didn't you open the box?" And I was like, wow. I mean, I had hardly, very little contact with Srila Prabhupada, although I had traveled with Prabhupada a few times, but Prabhupada was more or less on reverence in his dealings. And Narayana, I never expected it. I was like shocked. And I was so embarrassed, you know. It was in front of like 40 people, and I was just like, I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I opened up the box, and then I just went into the background, you know, because I was like so shocked. That was the second time I met him. So first two times he was very intense with me. But he was kind of, I think, letting me know that I am Guru and you are disciple, and maybe I needed something like respect. Respect is very important in relationship to the Guru, to know that he's higher and I'm a low person. So humility is very important. It's one of the first things in 17 most important, humility. If there's no humility, then you can't be humble, you can't inquire properly, you can't serve a person, you can't have a relationship with them. You have to have humility. So maybe he saw some pride in me or something. That's the third time I met him. I went to Mathura, and he's sitting outside his little room there on the first floor. And he's sitting there, you know, talking to, at that time there wasn't very many people. There was maybe 10, 20 people. It was very intimate at that time, and you could get very close to Gurudev. So he's sitting there speaking, and I came in and I went directly, I went around, I went right in front of him, and I did a direct undervote right in front of him. And he put his foot right on my head. And everybody went, wow, you don't believe it. How much mercy you got? Because the Guru generally doesn't do that. Unless, you know, he's either pleased with you or he's blessing you with some mercy. So at that time I felt very fortunate. Of course, I didn't have any clue or very much insight into who he was. I didn't even think he was a pure devotee. I had heard he was a very elevated Vaishnava, but to just see someone and to understand or realize what his actual nature is or what his level of bhakti is very hard, especially in the beginning stages. You'll misinterpret his moods, because he's he's for tantra. He can do anything he wants. So to see him yelling at me and this and that, I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. Srila Prabhupada really didn't do that. He was very soft-hearted, kind, and very loving and explanatory and this and that. So first time to get someone yelling at you like that can leave a pretty heavy impression.
He was so, like, when he saw people, when he met them, whoever it was, he saw the, like, shining star in their heart, like whatever external situation they were. I saw how he treated, Prabhupada disciples and, pandas and, dirty hippies off the street. With all of them, there was so much like dignity and personalism, and I don't know, it's not even something we can emulate, just the way he treated people. I remember we were at this Pandal program in Jaipur, maybe, I don't know, 2003 or 2 or something. And they had a big Pandal and they'd invited different speakers. Gurudev was like the main speaker, but they'd invited different people. And this one guy got up and he was just basically a straight out Mayavadi and just going on and on about all this stuff. And I was like, oh, like, this is interesting. And I mean, it was all through the translation, so I can't say exactly what Gurudev said, but he spoke after him in such a way that he corrected the philosophy, but made the guy feel like it was the best day of his life. He was beaming. He was like so happy, and like he just was like in love with Gurudev, even though Gurudev had just completely smashed like everything he'd said, but he'd done it in such a, like, an elegant way that it didn't, the person, not only did he not feel hurt, he felt like on the top of the world. And that's, a real gift of a Vaishnava, to be able to bring people up to a higher thing and to make everybody just feel so, like, happy, when you just, like, I'd film Gurudev, and so I was running for the angle and this and that, but it was just, like, amazing, like, he just lit up wherever he turned. Like, everybody just got happy, People didn't even know. They just have these stupid grins on their faces because they just, like, they don't even know. We don't know what he's doing, But it was just, I loved that, being on tour with him for so many years, and to be able to do that. I mean, sometimes it felt a little disconnected, like, okay, where do I stand? Where's the tripod? Are my batteries charged? Like, I couldn't be fully in the moment. I remember one time Vasanti and I, Gurudev was coming back from Russia or something, and we're like, let's go to Mathura, and we're not going to bring any electronics. No MP3, no digital camera, no video camera. Let's just go and welcome him back. And it was like, it was so sweet to just be like in the moment with him. But I'm happy in another way that I was able to have that service, and I felt like it's what allowed me to be able to be there for so many moments and stuff. Like, actually the last class he gave was in the Delhi temple. And I'd been in there doing some printing work or something, Akhilesh Prabhu and I were, and we drove into the temple, and he was just pacing up and down the driveway. And we didn't even expect, we were just coming to stay for the night. We didn't even expect class or anything. And then it's like, it's almost as like he saw me, and then he like kind of like looked at me, and then he like walked in the temple room, sat down, and gave class. And so I just ran, grabbed the camera tripod, got there, got set up, It was, I almost felt like he wanted that last class like recorded. And he, almost he was waiting for me. I can't say, but that's the feeling I had in that moment, because he was just pacing, and it was like a weird time. It was late, not his normal class time. And
I came in Canada to a place called Sharanagati Valley, or Venables Valley, as it's legally known. And I met a devotee there called Chipa Dudidar Maharaj. So I actually hitchhiked there with another devotee, and I would didn't plan on staying very long, but became very interested. And these teachings of Gita, Maharaj was is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, taking Shiksha from Srila Gurudev. And so he was really giving me both, and gradually introducing me to Gurudev. So then opportunity came to take initiation from Srila Gurudev on the phone. That place, there was no working phone there, so it's very remote, no electricity or anything. So we actually drove up a logging road. We go on a van, we go up this road, and there's this place of about 2 meters where you can get a signal through these hills to a tower. And we had a car phone, this big bulky thing, and we phoned Gurudev in England. And he was in England, and it's the first time I heard his voice. And there was one lady devotee also, and her 2 daughters who were taking initiation at the same time. So we all took initiation in the car together like that, in this logging road. Took Harinam. And one thing about Srila Gurudev I often think of is he's so stern and so grave, and yet so funny as well. And he really is, those seemingly contradictory things, but they really exist within him at the same time and complement each other. So when he was giving initiation also, he said, that Krishna, he's the source of unlimited universes, and all of this power is in his name. And he said to keep your index finger out of your bead bag, because it's the finger you use to point and accuse. And he said, if you don't do this, I'll break your head. But he said it in a way that was very affectionate, So like that, and it's really since that time I felt a strong connection with him internally. And it's something with Srila Gurudev I think a lot of devotees experience, is that really your visible interactions with him are just the tip of the iceberg. They're really just the tip. They might confirm so much that is going on or direct you in a way that you need to hear, but really most of it's going on internally. And before then even, but especially since then, I always felt connected to him. Sometimes I'm more distracted than others, and sometimes I'm focusing on him more, but really that connection's always there. It's kind of like oxygen. Sometimes I might be thinking about breathing, but I'm always breathing. And if I suddenly didn't have oxygen, I'd definitely notice. I feel like connection with Srila Gurudev is like that. I might be focusing on it more or less, but it's always there. It's so important.
And Gurudev came to your house as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Gurudev came to my house. Oh, that was really amazing. Gurudev came, and he came. I had a dream about Gurudev. When I had my Diksha first, when I came back from after my Harinam, thinking it was Diksha, because I was so stupid, I didn't know anything. And sometime later I had a dream that Narayana Maharaja is coming, and he came in a big posh black car, and he was wearing a suit. And all the devotees were with him, and then I saw him come out of this car, and I thought, oh my God, and then I started showering some flowers in my dream, and then I thought, oh, this is a dream. How can I even imagine Gurudev in a suit, I thought, oh my God, and it's so strange. Then many years later, Gurudev came after that dream. And he came to my house, and it was like he came in, and I was wearing this pink sari. I think that was the first time he saw me wear something really nice. I thought I really wanted, And he said to me, "Oh, Lalita, you look like a princess." And I'm your princess, Gurudev. I said, "Yes, you are my princess." And Radhika was little, and she loved Srila Prabhupada, this deity of Srila Prabhupada. She loved it right from the beginning of her life. I felt like she must have some connection with Srila Prabhupada in a previous life, because every time she looked at this deity of Prabhupada, there was a picture actually at that time, she always used to smile. And the first word, instead of saying mother, she said Prabhupada. So, when we were making all this preparation, Shaligram and myself and Ananga Mohan, and they were kids, you don't know what to tell them. So I just told her, I said, oh, Prabhupada is coming to our house, you know. And then Gurudev came and he was seated on his Vyasasana, and then in the corner, very proudly said to her, but this is my daughter Lalita's house. I remember that now. Were you there at the time? You weren't there?
I wasn't.
That's exactly what he said. This is my daughter's house. And then Radhika is like behind me and she's pulling my sari. She's like, Mommy, that is not Prabhupada. I said, yes, he is. I said, no, he doesn't look like Prabhupada in the picture. So then I said, it's Gurudev. Then we all came, and then I was asked he asked me to speak something, and I spoke something. I can't remember what it was, but just welcoming him, and it was quite emotional. It was really exciting to have Gurudev, and but we didn't stay there. We'd let Gurudev stay there in the house with other devotees, and we were just like serving him. We just came in the morning and did our things, and the next morning he'd gone out for a walk by the lakes, the riverside lakes. There were 5 minutes walk away from the house. We used to live in Burstow. And when he came back, he said, Lalita, तुम्हारा घर तो गोलक वृंदावन है. He said, your house is like Golak Vrindavan. You know, it's so beautiful. Went for a walk, everything is so beautiful. And it was quite new for him, you see. So he used to ask me, what is this for, and what is this, what was the guest fire was for, and you know. And I used to see him every day, and he used to have nice discourses with him. People used to, at that time, it was, you know, people could come anytime because there weren't too many followers. But that was an amazing time, and it's Gurudev.